willing to take that's going to move my life forward. Because I mean, you can get all excited, you can get all motivated, you can get all inspired, but if you don't take action, certain things are not going to happen or unfold in your life. And, desire without action leads to mediocrity and average. And so many people in the world today are living an average life because they never couple desire with action. And, people always ask me, they say, Jamel, you've written 13 books. Your podcast has been going for years. Your platform has been going for quite a while. You continue to impact and influence people. How do you do it? And of course, consistency is part of it, but you have to take action. There are so many people that say they're going to do something, and I talk to them 5, 10 years later, they haven't done anything. They never moved on one goal or one dream or one intention that they set for themselves. And some kind of way they think it's just going to magically happen and unfold in their lives. And the reality is that it doesn't work that way. And so at some point in your life, you have to be willing to couple desire with action if you want to see certain outcomes become a reality in your life. And by the way, our topic today is progress, moving your life forward. That's the topic, progress, moving your life forward. Here we are in November. We're so close to ending this year. I want you to have the tools that you need to move your life forward. Low standards will keep you stuck. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I always say this, that we resemble those with whom we assemble. And you need to learn how to associate higher. A lot of us, our relationship constellation is the reason that we keep repeating cycles in our lives. If you keep hanging around with Humpty, Dumpty, and Bumpty, you're going to be the next epic fail in that story. If you're hanging around with people that have no goals and they're just going through life haphazardly and recklessly, then you're going to reproduce that same outcome. And I'm always amused on social media and places, when you get to November, December, January, people like, I'm going through my contact list, I'm clearing out all of the clutter and all of the people who I'm not taking into the new year with me. Well, guess what? You're taking yourself into the new year, and most of the times we are our own greatest enemy. So you can delete every contact out of your phone, but if you are the problem, your life is still not going to change. And so I think a lot of times we put too much emphasis on other people and not enough responsibility on ourselves. But your relationships do play an important part in your success or your failure. And if you're hanging around people that are not vision directed and goal oriented and strategy intensive, then you're not going to produce the outcomes that you want to produce. And watching Netflix every weekend, um, hanging out with the same people with the same boring lives who aren't doing anything different, it's not going to get you to the outcome that you want to see. And we have to have straight talk with ourselves, and we have to ask ourselves, do our standards really accommodate the life that we're trying to build? Write that down. Do your standards really accommodate the life that you're trying to build? Because everybody will tell you that I'm not just telling you this information. I hold myself to very high standards. I hold the people around me to very high standards, and I don't tolerate, average, mediocrity, excuses, blah, blah, blah. Either you're going to come up to this standard or you're not. And you have to hold yourself to that, because I understand that if I lower the bar, I'm going to lower my performance in so many aspects of my life. And a lot of us tell ourselves that it's not that serious, but when we look at our outcomes and our results, it is that serious, because we're not really living the life that we want to live. More importantly, inaction will leave you powerless. Write that down. Inaction always leaves you in a state of powerlessness. And so many people in the world are living a powerless life because they won't take the action. It's I have to say this today. To know what to do and not to do it is one of the greatest forms of self-sabotage in the world. We could end the show and go home right there. But knowing what to do and refusing to do it is self-sabotaging your life. And there are many of you listening to me. I love you. And I say this with a sincere heart, but you know exactly what you need to do, but you won't do it. And then when people in your life who try to hold you accountable and really love you tell you that, you don't want to hear it, you get upset and defensive and you start pushing back, but you're living below your potential. You're not living true to who you were created to be. And at some point, the light bulb has to come on, and you have to get frustrated with where you are in your life. You have to realize that something has to change. And nothing is going to change unless you change it. And, so many people, they think they need more confirmation or affirmation or validation. They need more approval. They think they need more education. They need more something, but it doesn't matter what more you get. If you never step out on the thing that you have been born for, your life is going to continue to be this one loop of frustration and failure and defeat after another. And so you have to make the decision that you're going to become a person of action, that you're not going to just know what to do, but you're going to be willing to do what you need to do that's going to make the difference in your life. The one thing you cannot afford to do is to live stuck. To live stuck is essentially to not be where you used to be, while at the same time not being where you want to be. Now, everybody knows me. I'm a man of faith. I come from a church background. And, as a child, I used to hear people say this in church all the time. And, I'm an intellectual, and it never made sense to me. They would say, thank God that I'm not where I used to be, but I'm also not where I want to be. And my brain is processing it like, where in the world are you? If you're not where you used to be and you're not where you want to be, it sounds like you're just kind of in the middle of nowhere with your life. But it sounds good to you. It made you feel good about your lack of progress and results in your life. But the thing that I'm trying to say, um, in other words, being stuck means that you live a life with no progress. And so it's not enough to say, I'm not where I used to be and I'm not where I want to be. You need to do what you need to do to get to where you want to be. Because being stuck and going nowhere is frustrating, and it shows two things. It shows that you don't value time, and it shows that you don't honor your potential. So when I hear people keep making excuses, oh, next year is going to be my year, and 2027 is going to be my year. You said that 15 years ago, and it still hasn't been your year yet because you don't value time and you don't honor your potential. And I know you don't value time or honor your potential because you live your life recklessly. And when you live your life recklessly, you birth regret. Write that down. When you live your life recklessly, you birth regret. When I get to the end of this journey, it's not going to be filled with excuses. It's not going to be filled with this person's fault and that person's fault, why I didn't do what I was born to do. I'm going to be responsible for my life. I am responsible for my own destiny, and you are responsible for your own destiny. And at some point, we have to stop playing the blame game, and we have to take responsibility for our lives. And we have to come to the harsh reality that you are where you are because you want to be there. And every time I say that to people, they get so uptight and they get upset. And I say, you're mad, but what are you doing to change it? You want to be there because if you didn't want to be there, you would be taking the action to move your life in a different direction. But the fact that you're doing absolutely nothing shows me that you are content with being stuck and being crippled in your life. I can't stay there. The tragic thing in the world today is that a lot of people are perfectly okay with no progress. I talk to so many people. They are just as content with no progress, just as content with no results, just as content with no momentum, just as content with no breakthrough, just as content with no abundance, just as content with small mindedness, just as content with mediocre relationships. They're fine. They don't, I talk to people all the time, but they don't see anything that needs to change about their life. And well, if you don't see anything that needs to change, I don't see anything either. But, contentment is a very interesting word because this is what I tell people with contentment. Contentment should not take away ambition.